Hello everybody, welcome back to the Uncharted Frontier. Now, in our last episode we tried to bring something to Venus, but it did not work very well. So I think we're just gonna veer away from our interplanetary travel initiative that we tried to start and back toward creating the first space stations, which is going to be the main goal of our agency until the late 1960s. So if we just look around, we see early space stations is an option here that we should really try for. But I also see multi-crew capsules, but early space stations, that could be. They don't even have to be large. I mean, these incredibly small labs could be the start of a much greater initiative, but that's beyond our recognition for now. I think what we should focus on is better and more high performance cryo engines, because getting the RL-10 in specific will boost our performance quite high. And I think we should probably get the rocket planes just for good measure. But in the process of unlocking these new technologies, we will return to the moon. And in our return to the moon, we will bring... what should we bring? I want to get a lunar orbiter. Don't get me wrong, I do. Lunacom 3... Well, it wouldn't be 3, because then there was Lunacom 4, which was meant to be our orbital satellite after being renamed from Venuscom 1. But now we have Lunacom 5, which will be our next generation lunar spacecraft. Now, Lunacom 3 was successful for multiple reasons, but I say we just disconnect the kick stage of that for now, and well, first we can see if we can up any of the performance of this thing, because as of right now it's pretty low. But I don't think we have any engine that it would benefit having, so I think re-establishing just with the original method would work quite well. Just checking our staging, because we have not flown this mission in a very long time. Just making sure everything looks good, which it does. It appears we have stage separation there. Okay, so 802 over. Those cannot be correct values. Yeah, so separation, boost of the kick stage. Yeah, let's try to reorganize that a bit better, because I don't think that's accurate in the slightest. Also, here's the issue. Fairing separation and separation of the lower decoupler. And, we might want to actually revert back to our older design, as they seem more effective. Like, I'm more inclined to looking at what we did with Lunarcom 2 for this, but I say we're just gonna have to open our fairing and see what we had on here. Still same stuff, it appears, with the Lunacom 2 spacecraft, but I hope we can get better reaction wheels in this thing somehow. Inland reaction wheel, just something for better control orientation of the spacecraft, obviously. Oh, that was really heavy. What the hell? Yeah, no, I don't think these values are adding up correctly, because this does not seem normal for the value that we're usually getting out of this kind of thing. So no, I think something is evidently wrong with that. Here, we'll save Lunacom 2 again just to make sure we load it back in. Yeah, it seems normal. Okay. Rename it Lunacom 5 and a next gen lunar lander. This spacecraft should be more successful than the other ones. Does this thing carry hydrazine deposits? It does. Okay, so one more adjustment that I would like to make to the landing vehicle. Oh no, we already have RCS on it. Okay. So we're good there. Good. Now that we have Lunacom 5 ready, we can launch it and we will return back to the moon. And with the intention of the data we collect being used to greater the Kerbal understanding of the universe. But if we go into here and wait 35 days for the completion of the vehicle and our rollout time of Lunacom 5, we should scrap MagSat soon, but 52 days left on that. Why not? We can spend that. Now we have high performance engines at our disposal, and I feel that the new SAS mod we have, not mod, but module we have on this spacecraft should prove very helpful in our understanding of the world. But I think crewed exhibitions are going to be needed next because, well, we need to get into orbit and dock with a space station or just an orbital docking target. One of the two will work. So I think for now we should just use what we have and boost the spacecraft off of the runway. I mean, not runway, but launch pad at Karoo. And with greater control of the space. Is that the moon in the background I see? What do you know it is? But yeah, with the new finishment of this, I think we're gonna end off not the series but the season of the series. I'm expecting to do this in seasons with the settlement of a first space station. I think that would look incredibly good on our agency. I was actually looking in the Ballistic Fox Discord server and the Uranus system is almost done, which will be interesting to see, as I don't think we're nearly close enough to go to the outer planets, but still interesting to see that they're being still updated and worked on. But roughly 90 kilometers up, and we're still raising that orbital perigee and apogee, and we just separate yourself separation of those boosters there, and the braking and separation of the fairing. I see relying off our. Do we have other kerosene reserves in the spacecraft? No. Okay, so we probably shouldn't be using that. Oh, it's a beautiful thumbnail, if anything, but we already have one similar to it, unfortunately. So I think we should just start our burn to orbit here, as it proves effective in this state. This launch vehicle, a modified version of the L1LV, which is basically the L2LV at this point, will soon get replaced by a new class of vehicle, I think, but I'm not too sure if I'm ready to make the switch from this vehicle to the next iteration. But with that orbit secured, we can start burning for the moon right around here, I'd say. We should have enough fuel in the tank per se for an encounter with the moon. Yeah, as I mentioned, an encounter with the moon. This encounter, though, will be a bit different than the others we've done because it's going to be a direct descent style mission, and mainly perfecting maneuvers needed for greater positioning around objects like Mars. But I think that is a good trajectory to align ourselves with. So, burn time 58, 57, around that amount of seconds, which isn't much, so it's not going to be a very long burn. Obviously, we're gonna time warp to our suspected area. I am thinking about making a KSS2 series a lot more now, because as I am a dev on the mod, I do want to promote it, obviously, but I also really want to start something new. I honestly will continue the series. It is fun to make, but I do have other intentions with this YouTube channel than videos in this regard. So the separation of the kick stage shows effective as always, and bam, we have basically aligned ourselves with the trajectory needed for a lunar bound flight. Now, Lunacom 1 and Lunacom 3 are both landed on the lunar surface already. I do want to aim for the Sea of Tranquility area, or Serenity, or one of the lunar sea areas, instead of a basic lunar landing in some random area. Quick save. Now that we're a lot closer to the moon, and with these new reaction wheels I had installed, we have a lot greater control of the spacecraft. Roughly 100 1,000 meters per second of delta V here. We're going to start burning off that for our velocity change, but I think the suicide burn needed for this mission will be a lot more, okay, well, we're not going to have that, it appears, but we can still slow our speed with the onboard RCS thrusters, which will prove incredibly useful in attempting a landing on the moon in one way or another here. So just slowing ourselves as much as we physically can. We're not going to be able to make this trajectory, unfortunately. We're just going to impact the lunar surface, and unfortunately Lunacom 5 has failed. But in its failure, we will bring back a different endeavor for the agency. After Lunacom 5's abrupt failure, we decided we will redesign our lunar landing spacecraft to be more, I don't know, survivable per se. Now, the 44 days we have on the cryo engines, we will use for the redevelopment of our new vehicle, which will be custom for our lunar landing series of missions. Now, with the new spacecraft, it will be made of a probe core instead of the basic software we've been using before. Nothing pre-made, but honestly a bit more effective in my seeing. So we're just going to fill it with the needed propellants for a lunar landing here. And we can solve that after, but for now it is just deciding if our landing trajectory should follow the prior methods we've been using. which, given only 614 meters per second of delta V here, what do these guys even run off of? They're kerosene, yeah, so I don't know why they're not that effective per se here. So that's deeply concerning. Here, so we should probably test this around the moon instead of Earth for obvious reasons, but we always have other. We can look at the verniers we have that we can use here instead of whatever our idea was prior. So we can try a spark, I'd say might be a good idea, but that's a yeah, it's an NTO engine to my knowledge, and the NTO engine series doesn't tend to show effective here. Some of these, there's got to be an error here. Just call it MUN randomly. I'm just gonna test the bug of the spacecraft. Yeah, okay, that explains it, because that should not have been the situation we were in, but it was. It's not okay. Okay, so I think the NTO powered surveyor engines, we call them, are a bit more effective at pulling off a landing burn. They're obviously, I think they are, no, we had a hypergolic engine. It was called the Ant, I think. Yeah, the Ant. And silver metal, yes, that is exactly what we want. The Aerozine NTO. Yep, okay. That is spacecraft design for you. Resave that. Go over to the load. Yeah, literally 3,000 meters per second of propellant, which is insane for an early access lunar lander like this. So I think we should actually give it some better quote-unquote landing tanks. These would just be for motor propellant. Actually, we don't need anything to be motor propelled here, but it would be nice if, do we have Kerbal Engineer here? No, I don't know what it looks like. I think I have it installed, I'm not sure though. But toolbar, yeah, like this should not be the delta V of this vehicle, which is what's confusing me, because here, do we have MechJib that can like tell us that MechJib tells us delta V stats? Oh, thank God. Which seem to be a bit more here. Yeah, we have roughly, okay, that's good. It's good to know. So we have a lot more delta V with this than we had on the other spacecraft. And with these poppy blocks, I want to call them. Oh, it's a control block. Oh, I thought it was just an RCS piece. Let's do control. Well, we'll use them as control. Or not, we can just rely off something completely different. They don't even come with... Okay, well, that's just amazing. So now we need to deal with the communications. Should be decently simple because... Yeah, that's exactly why. The spacecraft is lightweight, so it doesn't really need a very high gain antenna as its communication. Then we can just pop 4 solar panels on the sides of it. I'm thinking on the inner pieces like that. Actually, they might be more effective here. Yeah, like that. Just so they're relatively aligned with the newer kind of, you know, spacecraft style. But we will pop some Ranger landing gear on this thing. And for science experiments, I think we're gonna have to go with the same ones we've been using, which are just surface cameras on one end, thermometer on the other, and then maybe if we have room, another kind of, you know, simple spacecraft study kind of thing, which we don't appear to have. So I think that's good for our spacecraft's abilities. This will be called something completely unique from its original counterpart, but calling it right now, we will not be using this thing all too often after this lunar flight, as we won't be needing nearly the same amount of money we've been having to waste on these kind of spacecraft. So we're just gonna take what would now be called the Lunar Exploration Lander, the LEL. LEL-1 will be an upgraded lunar lander. There. Nice vehicle. It's the LEL. But now if we load in a vehicle like the L1LV, which has proved pivotal in our development time and time again, that would dupe the whole vehicle. No, okay, we want that to be the new, like that, and then from there we will add something to the top of it to be its payload separation mechanic, like this. Just up, 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 up. There. The LEL-1, which, granted, might take a bit longer in its design than the other spacecraft did, but I'm sure all is good on that. So we'll just save the LEL-1 and start the building process. I do want to start pushing out more content, but more, what's the word? More interesting episode types, because I feel it's been I think it's been 2 weeks since I last posted, and I don't think that's good. So we're just gonna warp to that completion, warp to completion of our other vehicle, then roll out the LEL spacecraft, and then launch it from Kourou as we have been. So I do want to eventually mess around with Kerbal constructs later on in the series. If you guys like this series, I am considering like a true expanded version of the series where I add interstellar mods to the mix, but I don't know if I want to do that in my own stock series or not. I do like where RSS is at the moment, so I might keep it like this. But where we stand now, it's time to launch the new vehicle out of Kourou, which is always a great experience. See, I don't know why it's a slightly different color, but it still looks interesting at the launch site. So if we want to do that as the landing image, or that as the thumbnail image, something along the lines, I'm just giving myself multiple options here. Again, we never quick revert, but only for bugs, because I've discovered a few in my time playing Soul Quarter Scale, as it's not the refined version that most people play on, so more bugs are discovered than in the regular RSS version. But instead of basic style gravity turn this time. I'd say we actually had just a whip into, not orbit, but orbit-like positioning. And then just like that, we run out of that. But our staging was all messed up, so I had to manually, I have to manually stage here, which is unfortunate, but it's fine. Doesn't really affect me all too much, and quite frankly, I don't care to do manual stuff. I'm sure it's better anyway, so like there. It's much more efficient in my eyes to do things manually. Now this constant burn of this engine is really inefficient to get us where we need to be, but deploy. And continue the burn. Which, with the new propelled spacecraft we have built here, should be a lot easier than it once was. Still on a course of intercepting the moon at one point or another in its orbital resonance around this area, so we can just adjust that maneuver per se to intercept the moon at its nearest approach to our spacecraft, which, holy burn, that's a lot of unused delta V that we'd be wasting there. So yeah, I think we'll go with that as our trajectory, then refine it later on in the burn, which is, that's doable, right? Yeah, that's reasonable. I don't need that much delta V for that kind of burn. Okay, well, it's time warp to that, I guess. 29 minutes. Sorry that this orbit isn't as circular as the other one was per se, but I'd say it was still a good orbit for what it needs to achieve. Okay, we're wrong direction. Slight issues here. Slight issues being presented. No. What the is going on with this spacecraft? Okay, I need to regain power of this thing. It's not in its right state of control, it seems. Yeah, we're not in good light positions. And we have broken the spacecraft, unfortunately. Well, that is truly unfortunate. What that just gives us, yeah, we're done. Lunar failure. As we re-enter over the atmosphere of Earth, we realize how unsuccessful this mission was. And as it slowly re-enters over Earth's atmosphere, this is where we will end off today's video.